Hey, what's up, guys? It's Cypher, and welcome to We Are ESO episode 8. I was muted earlier. I apologize. I was just talking a bunch of shit about the chat, but we are live, episode 8. We're going to be discussing the Dark Brotherhood PTS, PvP changes, Imperial City, and the future of ESO, followed by a Q&A to wrap it all up. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. It has been almost 3 months since we have done a podcast. I'll let you guys give a short intro. I'm pretty sure you guys know everyone here. We also brought Jules along to give us her insight on some of the things that are coming up in the recent patches and the future patches on the PTS as well. So my name is Cypher from Sypherpk.com. I stream and I do YouTube, and I mainly cover the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm just going to pass it along to Richard. Richard, go ahead.
I'm King Richard, and I stream and do YouTube.
Fangrush, go ahead.
I'm Fangrush. I stream and I do YouTube too.
Lefty, do you stream?
I'm Lefty, and this is stupid. Hi.
All right, guys. And we also brought Jules along. Jules, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jules. I don't stream and I don't really do YouTube either.
You do YouTube.
Why are you
Sorry.
here?
Lie.
Like,
Why are
sort
you
of.
here?
I don't know.
Who
I'm a
invited you?
subscriber. If you don't do YouTube, I'm not unsubscribing, so.
All right.
Okay, guys. So let's talk business. All right. Let's get initial impressions of the Dark Brotherhood PTS out of the way. What do you guys think? I mean, we've all been in the PTS. We've all been able to compare it with the previous patch and this patch and the previous PTS and this one. And I'm pretty sure we have different opinions and stuff, but what's your general impression of the PTS? And we'll start with Fangrush. How do you feel about this PTS?
Why you start with me?
Going in alphabetical order.
Well, I've only got to play my Sypherpk, and I do want to play some other stuff too, and I haven't got to do many builds. But I don't know. It's a better patch for stamina. That's like the biggest initial impression fighting. I do like that, but yeah, I mean, there's plenty to still do. There's still work to do for Sypherpk. It's still coming. At least it's the PTS is a little longer, but I don't ever feel that they're long enough to like really fix everything, So, yeah, I don't know. I need to play it some more, and I look forward to playing it some more, trying other builds. But yeah, I don't know. Resource management's still like crazy. It's one of the things that bothers me the most with builds. There's like a solid go-to build you can make and just be like well balanced all around, and it kind of avoids specialization in any way. It kind of bothers me.
Are you saying that resource management is still really easy? Is what you mean?
Yeah, like you can just get like a solid build of steady management. Can always
Champion
CC
points,
break.
man.
Yeah, I know. It's the champion system.
Play no CP.
Lefty, how do you feel about the PTS? You got a little bit of time to work with it.
I played it on my StamDK. I actually like it a lot. I haven't tried a lot of different builds like Fang was saying. Just played on my StamDK. I was going heavy armor, so that's good stuff. I like the changes to heavy armor. Overall, I think it's been my favorite patch as far as content updates and balances since a really long time, actually. It's looking good.
Richard?
Yeah, I really like the changes. Like, they really got some serious balance happening, especially with stamina builds and giving some physical DPS ultimates and buffing heavy armor. Getting some changes to the champion points. It's definitely, really good patch as far as balance is concerned, 100%. I like it a lot.
Jules, how do you feel about this PTS?
I think there's some definitely like good changes that came with it. I like everybody else was saying, like the changes to heavy armor as far as damage, making it like more viable in line with like some of the other ones. Some questionable things like stamina shields. I don't know. I guess you'd have to go like down the line as far as like each skill and like each stuff like that, because it just depends. But I think overall it's a good patch for stamina, and I like the changes to proc stat as well. They're not going to hit as hard on a single target, which is good.
Comparing this PTS patch notes, just from reading the patch notes to the previous patch notes, I remember when I was reading the Thieves Guild patch notes, it's like every other line I was like getting stabbed. But this patch notes, there was a couple of questionable things, but overall, I agree with a lot of the changes they made. They are definitely heading in the right direction. This patch is definitely better than the previous patch, and a couple of the previous patches actually. It's still needs some improvements here and there, and there's a lot of things that we do need to critique and talk about in a constructive manner. Fenglish, in a constructive manner. So
Damn.
Called
let's,
out.
let's take it down the line and start with some of the hot topics that people really want to talk about. And one thing that I know Lefty would love to talk about is the changes that they made to the heavy armor skill line. So we're not gonna go deep into class balance and things like that, because that's like a whole variety and a lot of variables involved. Let's do just vague balance like things that happen to proxy that, shields, poisons, heavy armor, and things like that. What do you guys think about heavy armor? The buffs, they gave them a lot of buffs. They did take away the bracing passive, which is their 20% block block cost reduction.
Cost reduction.
But they gave them a lot of other things. And Lefty, I'm sure you looked through that. So what do you think about the heavy armor changes?
Fantastic, dude. I still don't think we'll see heavy armor as a meta, but I think you'll see it. It'll be more competitive. I think it'll be viable again. It was really good back in the day. No one really still ran it because a lot of people like to play with heavy DPS, not necessarily the tank setups. But now with the changes to the passive, you get more damage with heavy armor. You've got more sustain, which I think is really going to help out a lot. With the Constitution passive, they brought Constitution back to essentially where it was, like 6 or 7 updates ago. It's been so long. If you pair that with Black Rose, it's going to be really, really good. And if you throw that onto the No Champion Point campaign, you're probably going to have some of the best resource management, even compared to the DPS builds. So you'll be able to play like a true tank. You'll be able to play a setup that just outlasts your opponent, which is my personal playstyle. I like to outlast, wait for you to burn all your resources, and then you sit there trying to heavy attack, and then I start taking you out. So I'm just really happy to see that heavy armor is going to be something that's actually... I think it'll actually be able to compete. You know, my testing on the PTS showed me that, so it's good stuff, man.
Fenglish, did you play with heavy armor at all in PTS?
Yeah, that was the set I was using.
Yeah.
And there's some other sets too. I mean, I don't know. I don't think heavy armor's as good as medium armor, just because with medium armor you get really good passives, and the heavy armor ones aren't bad, but they're not like as defining as like a medium armor, like giving you damage boost and like directly helping you with all your sustain and survival. And the heavy armor is doing the sustain and survival portion, and it's doing it better. I just think heavy armor is used because there are some good heavy armor sets. That used to be a problem. There weren't very good sets for it. There's some good ones out there right now where you can use that. But like if I had to pick, I'd go medium armor. But
That's why I was saying I don't think it'll be meta. I
yeah,
think most people will still stay away from heavy armor, but it's more viable now.
What do you guys
Yeah.
think? Like it's lacking right now? You saying the damage is what it's lacking? The heavy armor?
Well, one thing I noticed was the high burst stam Nightblades are still able to eat through all my healing with rally, vigor, Malabeth, and major mending buffs. All a stam Nightblade has to do running medium armor and high DPS is just throw a couple surprise attacks at me, even through all those ridiculous healing buffs that I have. So it's still, the damage mitigation is still just...
So I mean, in my opinion, like the heavy armor doesn't need the damage. Obviously, it's always going to lack in damage, and it should, but it should outplay the other armor lines in survivability. Damage mitigation is definitely not where it needs to be, and that's something that a lot of people on the forums agree with. Heavy armor needs a lot more damage reduction in comparison to medium and light, who sometimes can outplay heavy armor as far as survivability is concerned. So instead of giving them damage, they should, give them a little more. It's something that does heavy armor have any sort of crit resistance at all currently?
I don't think so.
I don't think
You
it
gotta
does. I think it gives increased healing,
Yeah.
or healing received, but I think that should get a little bit above too,
I think-
because medium armor builds, they heal way better than the heavy armor build.
Yeah, like-
It should
And
just be.
you're
You should
just-
just take less damage in it.
You have
See,
good
straight
sustain
less damage.
resources. Like the biggest problem I think is how armor scales.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Like when you start kicking it up to 25, 30k plus, you should see like some real mitigation that you don't see. So that's a problem. Like you can afford to just go with 5 to 10k less armor. Like as great and essential as like having those major buffs are that give you like 5k resist. I mean, you can go without them for some other stuff. You technically can. It's when you're in a resource battle, it's generally not wise to, but like 5k armor is not what it should be, I don't think. Like that's a problem with it. It just doesn't scale well to the resist.
I think what it is I think overall you definitely take less damage in heavy, but when you compare it to how a medium armor build plays with the amount of dodge rolls that they put in and how much rally and vigor heals on a high DPS stand build with high resource management, they'll just out sustain you and heal through all your damage, so it technically makes them more tanky than a heavy armor build. So I don't really know the exact fix to it. Maybe they need to just increase the healing passive like by a lot, so that you'll be able to keep up with a high DPS medium armor build and heavy armor as far as survivability and sustain. But currently, I mean, like some of these builds, they can just spam vigor and rally, and you're not killing them while they're doing it. And also, your opportunity to kill them is when you CC them, and they never run out of stamina, so they just CC break. So you really, unless you have the ability to one shot those kind of builds, you just can't beat them. And that's what heavy armor should be good for. It should be good for out sustaining, and currently you can't out sustain a medium armor build with heavy armor, so it kind of like makes heavy armor useless.
I
have
think
an
you
idea.
might be able to on no CP. I want to try it with these
On no
changes to
CP?
Constitution.
On no CP, yeah, to a certain extent, but you also have to remember there's some really good no CP setups. Vicious Ophidian is going to come back, and also Marksman. So those sets will out sustain everything, because I fought them already on no CP campaign. They don't run out of resources.
With the
It's kinda
change to
like-
Constitution and heavy armor, that's what I'm saying though.
Yeah,
I think
with
you
the-
might be able to.
No, these builds literally they don't run out of resources.
So I have a question for you guys. Now, if you want to get the 20% block cost reduction on heavy armor, you're going to need to drop impenetrable for sturdy, which is going to give you about 4% block reduction per piece. And if you can stack that up to 20%, you'll get that that percentage that you lost. But now you don't have any crit immunity. So how would you feel about the first thing is potentially putting in a passive that reduces critical damage to heavy armor users, so that they don't have to rely on impenetrable compared to other classes that do have to rely on it. And then 2, how would you feel about them taking it one step further and converting all the impen light and medium armor pieces to a different type of trait and making impenetrable, like the true form of impenetrable, a heavy armor exclusive trait? Just 2 ideas. Like, obviously the first idea seems to make a lot more sense, but how would you guys feel about
Yeah, I
being-
agree with what you just said. The first idea makes a lot more sense than that second one. I don't know. That second one's a really big change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I-
think
that
that'll happen,
impacts
because
a
then they
lot of
would have to
things.
give light armor their,
different traits?
yeah, and then same thing with medium armor. It's just too much.
So
I think the traits should stay universal, because
Yeah.
it kind of helps you be unique. But I'm definitely all for, like, heavy armor should get a critical passive. You're in heavy armor.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be able to stop critical hits or mitigate them to a certain extent. So I'm all for that. Yeah, that's
heavy
a good
armor
idea.
should have natural crit resistance. Do you all agree on that? Just
Yes.
in the passives?
Either natural crit resistance, or you just have to be tanky as hell and just take crits and just laugh at them. You're wearing steel. We can
Yeah.
go back to this.
Well,
It's-
how about this? Correct me if I'm wrong, but currently there's a hard cap on armor and spell resistance, right?
believe
which
there
is,
is. I believe
which is
there is.
32k. Why is there a hard cap on that? And there's not hard caps on things like damage.
Yeah.
Like, if you can hard cap a mitigation, you have to hard cap damage, or else
And
damage
regen.
wins out. And regen as well. So why don't they remove the hard cap off of your armor and spell resist, so people can technically stack and get just as much mitigation as somebody else has damage. I mean, that's the only fair way to do it, because one thing I like about this patch is a lot of balance, but currently that's an imbalance because there's no hard cap on damage, but there's a hard cap on armor and spell resist. So that's something they should probably look into.
Jules,
really
do you
good
have
point.
anything to say about heavy armor? I'll let you say something before we move on to the next topic.
I really like heavy armor. I don't really agree that it needs all these buffs. I think that the tankiness of heavy armor, other than the fact that it lost the block cost redux, I mean, I feel really tanky. I still get 3.3k vigor ticks in heavy armor. I don't know. I still have 4k weapon damage, 40k max stam.
Have you fought any of like the high burst stam Nightblades? Because I had some really good stats, like defensive stats and healing was really good, and just a couple surprise attacks. Just laughed at everything that I could throw at it in terms of tankiness.
I haven't fought too many stam Nightblades.
Like
but-
I beat everyone else, every other build except the high burst stam Nightblades because surprise attack.
It's because of the critical
Yeah,
damage
I mean, I
bonuses
think
that they have.
that says more maybe about stam Nightblade than it does
That's a good
about
point,
heavy
yeah.
armor. I don't know. I just think that the resource sustain is pretty decent. I like the damage that you get with the Constitution passive, and like you were saying, Lefty, if you pair it with Black Rose, then I think it's pretty strong right now. Honestly, the mitigation I think is, maybe it could be tweaked a little bit, but I think if you start giving it impen and you take impen away from light and medium, I think it's going to be a little imbalanced and a little too strong.
I think maybe
Yeah,
like a small passive to reduce critical damage, like not something that scales really high, but maybe like something 2, 4, 6%, something
The thing-
that just adds on.
The thing is that, for one, there's already impen, so you can stack heavy impen armor, and then you also have resistance in the champion tree, so you can get increases to critical damage. I think the issue is just that you can stack way more damage than somebody can stack mitigation, as far as just pure armor and spell resistance is concerned. Now, you also got to take into account of how much damage is mitigated when you're blocking and you're dodge rolling, and now you also have a stand-based damage shield. So I think the one area that should be looked at is, first and foremost, is the fact that armor and spell resistance has a cap and damage doesn't. So to me, that doesn't make sense.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. The next major topic we should be discussing is the shield nerf and changes. Changes to the shield length being 6 seconds now, and then Harness Magicka becoming a physical and magical shield, but only returning resources on Magicka. What do you guys think about that? It's a lot of mixed reactions regarding the shield changes.
I actually was like, I got mixed emotions about that, because we know, we go back when Harness Magicka was absorbing both physical and magical DPS. It takes away like the one edge that a Magicka or a stand build had against a Sork, but I guess it'll maybe balance out when you factor in the fact that shields only last 6 seconds now. But that's kind of like OP, because usually, like currently in the current setup, in the current patch, when you're fighting a stand build, Harness Magicka is useless. Now you have an extra shield to mitigate damage. I think that's a little bit too strong. I really don't like that change.
Well, it's strong when you pair it with Hardened Ward, but pairing.
Well,
it,
yeah. If it's strong, if you pair it with Hardened.
But what about Templars, Templars, Nightblades, and DKs? I think that really gives them a little bit of a boost that they sometimes needed. The Magicka, Templar, DKs, and Nightblades.
That's the thing. A Magicka Templar didn't need that. They had Breath of
Well,
Life.
Magicka DK needed it. Magicka DK needed it. I mean,
Magicka DK,
in
yeah.
light armor, could definitely benefit from it.
Kind of. Well, no, yeah, you're right. I agree. Magicka DK needed it. I don't think Templar and Nightblade needed that.
Now, what do you think about the duration? Like 6 second shields. Like, what does that exactly do? Like,
Makes people shield stack more, and Sork's gonna become even more annoying because they probably won't be killing as much, but they damn sure won't be dying because they're gonna be putting on a shield every 2 seconds.
It depends on the player, right?
Yeah, 100% depends on the player, but you gotta look at the average player. I mean,
Yeah.
Sork's already shield stack heavy, and they don't have to. So now you're kind of forcing them to shield stack. They're gonna shield stack even more. So
I think they so shields were a problem. Okay, especially sorcerer shields. They were a problem. They were causing issues. But changing the duration of the shield and then giving them harness physical wasn't the solution, in my opinion. I just my biggest issue with shields is how much mitigation it actually provides compared to things like heavy armor and compared to things like impenetrable shields. Just the amount of mitigation you get out of a shield is so big, and the crit resistance. I mean, not resistance, crit denial. You don't even crit against shields. You close out a bunch of builds. If you build for crit damage, you're pretty much out of luck at that point because you're not going to be able to do anything to a person stacking shields, or it negates a big part of your build and the amount of damage you can do to a player. So I really don't think that the shield duration was the issue, but and not even the size. It wasn't about size or duration. It was about the effect the shield had. And the problem ZeniMax has right now is they can't balance shields on, like, they can't do a change that affects all shields and expect balance out of it, because when you compare things like Igneous Shield to Hardened Ward, they're completely different. Igneous Shield is not overpowered. It's not a huge shield. It doesn't mitigate that much damage, while Hardened Ward does, and now Harness Magicka does as well. So you gotta address every shield individually, and ZeniMax hasn't done that, in my opinion. They've done sweeping changes to shields and the way shields work, but they haven't addressed specific shields and specific classes that can, take advantage of them more than others.
Go ahead, Jules. I'm sorry.
It's okay. A couple of things about the shields. I think that 6 seconds is a little short as far as if you think about lag, swapping bars. I think 10 seconds would be a little bit more appropriate for Sorks. But on the other hand, if you think about the fact that Sorks basically have 2 hardened wards now, which you're going to have, people like Tamerlane have, 50k max Magicka. You're looking at 25 to 30k shields that mitigate all incoming damage and can't be crit upon. That's should be something that needs to be either looked at in terms of shield stacking or being able to crit on those shields. That's a lot of damage mitigation. And the fact that it mitigates all incoming damage now is a lot. I don't really think that that's that balanced.
I don't think that was the right way to go. I think that the issue with shields is it's an ongoing issue with a lot of things in ESO. It's not just shields, it's healing as well. And what it all boils down to is resource management. Like, whenever you can have something that mitigates, like you said, 40k damage, and that can be refreshed without any skill, at will, without any real strain on your resources, that's where the problem comes in at. And it's the same thing with healing. Like, people will put up Rally and Vigor, you'll do a little bit of damage, you'll pop another Vigor, Rally, and it just never run out of resources. And I think the issue is, like, I remember there was a time, actually a lot of people don't even notice, shields were not always the way they are today. Like, for instance, when you use the shield, say I put on Harness Magicka, I couldn't refresh my Harness Magicka until it was completely knocked off me or the duration was up. They changed that because people were complaining that shields were too weak. They were never weak at that point. They just took a little bit more skill to play because you couldn't just infinitely spam shields. And they need to just go back and, before they do anything, before they make them critical, because I'm for making shields critical, but if they make them critical, they also have to raise the amount of damage that they mitigate, because it's gonna be doing way too much damage on shields. And you also have to take a look at impen and then resistance and how you can stack that to mitigate damage as well. So a real simple fix is to go back to the way the shield mechanic works and just stop people from being able to infinitely spam shields without any penalty. So I feel like if I put on my Hardened Ward, I should not be able to get a brand new Hardened Ward until mine is completely knocked off or the duration is up. So.
You can't do that in this meta. Like, you couldn't make that change in this meta because if the burst is too high, you'll end up getting just one shot.
But that's the
It's
thing. But you have multiple. Now we have multiple shields. We have harness magicka back to where it was before. So now you can actually rotate shields. So if you have a hardened ward on, it's not. You're not going to lose both shields at the same time. One of your shields is going to disappear first. So you have to be skillful about it and say, okay, I just got my harness knocked off. Let me put my harness back on. Okay, my harden is off. Now let me put my harden back on. I need a healing ward. There's a healing ward. So you have multiple shields that you can rotate through between all the classes in a skillful manner. So that change will really help the issue with shields. I mean, they changed it because of the people were crying on the forums and saying, you know, I'm trying to refresh my shield and every time I press the button, nothing happens. Yeah, nothing happens because you still have a shield and you shouldn't be able to spam shields like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you basically have two options. It's either shields are stackable and critable, or shields are not stackable but not critable. Because I don't think you should be able to crit on, like, for me, I think it's really annoying when a DK involuntarily puts an igneous shield on you, and you have like some measly little like 2K shield on, and you can get hit with shield breaker, or if shields were critable and you could get hit with a shield like that. I think there should be some sort of parameter where if it's like above 5K shield, then it can be crit on. You know what I mean? All those things need to be taken into account,
Yeah.
where it's not just blanket things across the board. Because like you said, Sypher, igneous shield and hardened ward need to be thought of in different ways because they're different shields. They scale off of different resource pools. And somebody brought up a good point to me the other day, that if shields should be able to be crit upon, then maybe shields should be able to crit themselves as well. Like, is it fair to have
Yeah.
shields be crit upon if shields can't crit?
Well, no, I agree. Like, and honestly,
Yeah, that makes sense.
like that should be the case, and maybe even have some sort of shield resistance. So it's just like extra health that you're putting on, but it scales with your max magicka. And the major problem, like I said, is, I mean, Richard brought up a really good point. Doesn't matter like how big or small a shield is when you can just infinitely reapply the shield over and over and over and over and not have any negative effects. Like, you're not going to run out of resources if you build properly. You can constantly cast a shield over and over. You can constantly heal or whatever the case is over and over without thinking about your resource management. So when you actually used to care about your resource management, which is, I think, a huge problem that's plaguing the game, the fact that you do not run out of resources when built properly, or if you have any sort of sustain, it's very easy to manage your resources. So you can constantly put shields and constantly give yourself heals. And that's an issue altogether, and the shield strength is an issue altogether.
Can I
How
say something?
much? Well, hold on. How much do you guys play on the no CP campaign? Because a lot of these problems, like, people run out of resources all the time on no CP.
I'll tell
It
you.
all depends on
okay,
build, though.
I
some
understand
really
there are
good
some builds that can sustain, but they are made for sustain, and
No.
they'll lack other things. Whereas with the champion point campaign, you just have everything. I haven't played a champion point campaign in forever, dude. Ever since the no CP campaign now, granted, I've been playing other stuff, but ever since the no CP campaign came out, I've just been playing that, and it's way better, dude. Like, all this talk about the infinite resource management stuff, like, I don't even remember what that is, because I don't play
Shields
on
are
the
still
CP
easy to
campaign
manage
anymore.
on that.
I
Like,
get
don't
it.
cost
Listen,
granted they are.
You
about
played
to say
Sypherpk on the no CP. I played the Magical Sorcerer, right, on no CP, without Lich, with and without Lich, right? I've played on PC. I played with the Lich set, and on console I've played without Lich, and I actually have all spell damage on my jewelry, and even with that, it's I rarely find myself running out of resources. It happens from time to time, but I don't. The punishment is still not quite there. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, on the no CP campaign, certain classes and builds are punished more than others, and it's not as balanced as can be. And especially shields even work better on that campaign, considering they make you waste more resources trying to take down the shield and so on and so forth. So like you can still make builds on the no CP campaign that still have damage and still have the type of sustain, if it accommodates you. And usually it's easier to do it with a magic build compared to a stamina build.
All right, so two things. One is to address something that's being said in chat. The console players are saying that the change that I said that should probably happen can't be done on console because they don't have buff trackers. And that's not true. There's no buff trackers. You're right. Console does not have add-ons. However, each ability has a animation on it. Like, for instance, you put Hardened Ward up, you get circled by blue stuff. You proc a frag, your gloves glow or your hands glow. You have harness magic on you. You can hear it sparkling. You can see it sparkling around you. So you can see all the shields and animations that you have on you, even without buff trackers. So you don't need buff trackers to see your shields. However, I do think that buff tracker or a buff tracker should be implemented on console as well. Just because
Yeah.
with the option to turn it off and on, because I just think that's a key part to
Yeah, like a year
to an
ago
MMO.
should have happened.
Yeah, it should have been in the game. Another thing about the no CP campaign, Lefty, that you have to understand is the game has changed drastically from when we used to play. So, for instance, when we used to duel back in the day and people will run out of resources, you know what happened a lot of times, Lefty? We get somebody low on resources and they're going for heavy attacks. We bash them, it'll blow their
Yeah.
stamina, and they wouldn't be able to get their magicka back
No, I
through
understand.
heavy wrestles. That is gone. That, like, as a magic sorc, if I ever get low, I'll pop my mines, I'll pop a shield, you CC me, I CC Brink, and I'll heavy wrestle on your face. I'm never running out of resources on a no CP campaign. So I can't say that I've played the stand build on a no CP campaign, but I've played against them. And there's a lot of stamina builds, especially on Xbox, that do not run out of stamina on a no CP campaign, and they're all stacked in the damage as well. They do very, very good
Yep.
damage. Because you have to understand, the CP system isn't just resources; it's also damage and damage mitigation. So you take away a lot of that damage mitigation and that damage, you can still get really moderate damage, even and have good sustain on a no CP campaign as well.
All right, let's move on. We don't want to stick to one topic for too long, and we want to kind of try to keep this podcast, under 2 hours. Hopefully, even shorter than that. Let's.
Cypher, do you mind if I just add something that I saw on your stream the other day that I thought was wicked important? Do you remember when you were talking about you wearing all like resource management sets
Yeah.
the other day?
Yeah.
And
The
what
DK,
soft caps did, and you
Mhm.
were soft capped at what?
like
What would be the equivalent
139
of like?
like 1300, 1400 recovery.
So like, what would be 1400 recovery today?
Yeah.
I can run. You can easily get 2K, 2.1K on a full damage build nowadays.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is one of the main sources of this infinite resource pool across the board, is that those soft caps are gone, and you can stack literally into full damage, full spell damage, full weapon damage, all your glyphs, all your sets, and still have an insane amount of recovery.
Exactly.
And, that's an issue. So
You could wear 5 Warlock, 5 Seducer, and you would be soft cap at 1400 recovery. So you're going full into sustain, and you'd have 1400 recovery. Nowadays, you can go full into damage and have 2000 recovery, which is just insane.
Yep.
And it makes the game too easy
Yep.
to work with. Let's move on to the next topic. We'll go back if we need to. Imperial City. They put flags in. There's still a lot that could be done. There's still a lot of improvements, and the flags, in my opinion, are a little rushed and could be a little more, just a little more, a lot more actually. Vangush, you want to go ahead and talk about the flags, and we had some really good ideas earlier. We'll bring up.
Sure, yeah. There's only one of them, and it's the same capture mechanic as any flag in the game right now. They just plop them in the districts, and they don't really matter. And there's nothing to gain from it. There's no reason to go do it. I mean, I would prefer to PvP there than Cyrodiil, because Cyrodiil's usually laggy, and it's got a lot of huge groups. But if there was something to fight for in there, if it actually was well designed, then there would be those same groups in there. You come up the ladder into 20 people, and that's something that should be adjusted too, I think. I don't know how they do it, but I just wish the districts were kind of redesigned. I talked about it in one of my videos, but I just think it should be limited on people going in there. I think they need to, give rewards for going there and getting Telvar stones, things to buy. Something that's repeatable, something where you just don't go there for a month and then you leave and you never go back. But I'd like to see, a limited amount of number in districts where it's like 3-sided fights on flags. I think it would be really interesting. But also, if it's not going to connect to Cyrodiil at all, which it doesn't, I don't know why there's one for each campaign right now. They don't need more than 2 Imperial City things for everything, but there's one for each server right now. they could probably get away with just having everyone go there. So if I want to go to Imperial City, I can PvP people there because it's that desolate that there's no reason to have 5 different campaigns to search for. People just go and they hide on one and they farm. And if you go there, they'll leave or go to a different one. It's ridiculous. So those are some thoughts.
Okay. Richard, you mess with the flags a bit. What do you think?
Yeah. All right. So the flags, it's a huge swing and a miss. Huge. So the way it works is you go on the sewers, you get on the flag. It doesn't really take long to capture a flag, right? You cannot spawn in that district once the flag is flipped by another faction. So if you're DC and it's owned by EP, you can't spawn in that district, right? That's an issue. There should be at least 3 flags to allow for some type of strategic play. Say, on this side of the district, DC owns it, this side, AD owns it, or AD owns 2 flags on this side. At least when AD or when DC is pushing AD, they'll have a spawn point when they die. Currently, the way it's going to work when it goes live, because it's 1 flag, this is so stupid. One faction is going to Zerg the flag, they're going to take it. When that Zerg dies, before you can flip the flag, they'll all be respawned right on top of the flag running at you, because the respawn point is like right next to the flag. It makes absolutely no sense. It is going to be a complete Zerg fest, and it's going to be so hard to flip a flag once one faction owns it. It needs to be multiple flags in each district to give multiple factions a chance to actually spawn in that district. I did enjoy it. It was really fun. It was small scale, but that was just on PTS. I'll have more when it goes live because I really don't know.
An idea that has been tossed around, and an idea that I definitely support, is instead of having 1 flag, you should have 3. Keep the one that is near the bridge and put 2 in the buildings of the Imperial City. Put them in unique places that, you know, will create dynamic fights. That way you have three flags per district. A second thing is, some people suggested that the Imperial City should somehow link to the Cyrodiil War. And the reason why you can't have that happen is Imperial City is a DLC update, so people who don't have the DLC cannot participate. So it would suck to, you know, have the Cyrodiil leaderboards affected by something behind the paywall. An idea that we brought up before we started was there should be a separate leaderboards for the Imperial City. Maybe even a Telvar leaderboard. Instead of an AP leaderboard, make it a Telvar leaderboard, or maybe just a killing leaderboard. You can just really have multiple leaderboards in Imperial City to make it things a little more fun, a little more competitive. On top of that, an idea that people had was once you flip the, let's say your alliance flips the entire Imperial City, the person on the top of the leaderboards, whether it's Telvar or AP, whatever the case is, gets a huge Emperor type buff. It's not the Emperor skill line. There might not be any titles associated with it, but it's like a top Telvar buff. Or maybe, to make it even more interesting, whoever has the most Telvar stones on them at that time has the buff. And they are like considered the Emperor, or like whatever title you want to give them, of the Imperial City. And it's going to be separate leaderboards, separate, system outside of Cyrodiil, to encourage some sort of competitiveness inside the Imperial City districts and sewers. And this would kind of create some sort of mini-game environment that the Imperial City offers, that people can go and it'll be a lot more fast-paced, a lot more, small scale. Instead of just giving a Telvar buff for 33%, which all that's going to do is encourage PvE people to farm Telvar stones. It's not going to encourage the PvP or small-scale PvP that people are looking for.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the districts, I agree with what you said about the flags. I think that, having 1 flag doesn't make any sense. There's no strategy. It's just going to end up being Zerg 1 flag. And then there really needs to be some sort of other incentive. PvPers are looking for some sort of power, some sort of buff, some sort of like advantage over their enemies. They're not really looking for, I can farm more mats, which is basically what Telvar Stones comes down to, which is why we saw, IC extremely populated at the beginning of 1.7, and then it slowly just kind of pandered off because everybody got their gear, and there was not really a true incentive to be there anymore. There was nothing that you could really gain from being there. So I think that they definitely need to implement that before that goes live.
Yeah, it's like they don't know who they're making that DLC for. I mean, PvPers want to go there, they want to win a fight for a big reward, or they want to win the fight because it's an enjoyable scenario to PvP, and they put something in that doesn't help do either of those things. The reward is literally you can farm better in PvE, which is everyone was complaining about that to begin with, saying there's nothing to do but PvE here. This was a PvE DLC that was supposed to be a PvP one. There's no
Yeah.
PvP because people just go there to farm and isolate themselves away from any kind of PvP. It's absolutely ridiculous. Um, if there is a really good reward, that's great, and people will go there. And if they put in those flags, I mean, it's questionable how that works. There's 3 flags. Like, that was my idea, is that there should be flags like for at least the 4 corners, because it's like all the districts are squares. But if they do that, then again, what's to stop? Like, oh, there's a good setup, and there's really good rewards, and then again, you're just gonna have these 20-man groups rolling around in these little rooms, just like sitting on flags. And how's it gonna work? Do you have to capture all 4? Do you have to hold all 4 for a certain amount of time? Because why would I go there with 3 people to fight 20 people when they could all just split in? They could split in half if they wanted, 10 and 10, and they're just gonna outdo you on flags. Like, they're just always gonna capture all of them. They could split into 4 groups of 5. It doesn't matter. Like, it needs to be a controlled environment if it's gonna work with multiple flags. So they have a problem like making a reasonable solution, but
Well,
this was
3
like the laziest one. This is just awful.
Three
They
flag,
literally.
fingers, like one flag is it's gonna have 20 people zerging on it, but at least with 3 flags, they're
Right, but how
forced
do
to
you
kind
win?
of split. You cap all 3.
You have to cap all 3. So what are the odds that you literally kill
Well, you
20
won't.
people
Okay.
and capture all 3 flags?
Okay,
You
to
can't.
spawn in the district, you got to cap all 3. You have to have all 3 to spawn there. If you don't have all 3, you can't spawn there. What they'll do is they'll split up the groups a little bit, and the 3 people will not defeat the 20. They shouldn't defeat the 20, but at least they have mechanics to stall them, or at least farm them, or whatever the case is. Get them running around chasing them while they flip flags and kind of take, just when you force them to split or run around or have multiple objectives, it's at least better than one objective. One objective they can just sit on if they wanted to.
Yeah, one objective is what we have in Cyrodiil, and
Yeah.
I agree with that. I'm just saying you don't have a realistic win scenario, and I'm not saying you should have a realistic win scenario 3v20. What I'm actually saying is I want a scenario where it's just 6v6, 12v12, and not just one side versus the other, but like all 3 sides. Because I think that would make this game's PvP shine at its most, where you say, okay, we have multiple objectives, we have a sizable group, and it should probably be split. And maybe it won't be split. It depends what we're doing or what our strategy is. Like, people would come and play that and have fun with that, but that's not something that's happening. It's like they literally took like what a tower capture mechanic was and they plopped it down. And some of those places in IC are just so awkward. It's just like some guy did it on Friday afternoon. Like, he's just like, all right, there we go. We gave them what they wanted. So I mean, if it's like just something like they're just messing with, great. But if this was like, we finished IC now, guys, it's finished, we gave you what we originally promised, you can capture stuff now, then it's like an insult, honestly. It's terrible. Like, it's not going to be good. So as constructively as I can, it needs to be reworked, Cypher, is my opinion. It's like not even progress. It's nice if I can get some PvP there, because I'd rather fight there than Cyrodiil, but I really don't see it drawing people in. They're not going to be like, hey guys, Cyrodiil's kind of boring, you want to go capture flags in the districts? Why? What's it matter? It doesn't matter at all. Are you going to go capture flags so you can PvE? Like, that's not what those players came there to do to begin with. It's like, again, like I said when I started, like, they made changes for people that don't care about the changes they made. It's like they don't know who they're making that content for, and that's a problem.
I think a very interesting thing that we brought up, which just gave me sort of a weird idea. It's like we're waiting so long for these battlegrounds, and here's IC, it's just this open area with all these like super sick buildings and all these places that people love to PvP. Why can the PvP battlegrounds not just be the districts? Why can you not just implement 3 flags, put a pop cap of 20 per faction on it, and there's your battlegrounds? The content's already there, like the location is already there. All it would really need would be a pop cap.
And a queue timer.
No?
Like a queue
And
when
yeah,
you're trying to
and like a queue
go up the
timer
ladder.
and a leaderboard.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a new arena coming. in
We have
Brotherhood.
ideas. These ideas aren't that difficult to implement, like
Right.
the
Rather than-
leaderboards and 3 flags and the cap on the district
Yeah.
and stuff.
Rather than
Sewers
coming
can
out
remain
with
open.
an entire, new area to do all of these things and then just abandoning this IC thing that you have, why can one not just become the other and let's get it done faster?
Yeah, like sewers is good what it does, and like I like having the PVE mixed with the PvP. I actually like that. Like I'm a big fan of the sewers. I think its design is good. I think the only thing missing from people going to the sewers is the fact that you don't have anything to spend your Telvar on. So if they put something on there that's repeatable, like my idea is putting gold mats on them, then people would say, let's go to the sewers. They'll farm gold mats, and then again, limiting the servers so you don't have all these different ones spread out where people can just go and hide on one. Like really limit it down to one, unless they really need to split it in two, because IC itself is already actually split up into zones. At least top and bottom are split completely as zones. The sewers from the districts, so like it can probably do a bit better in that respect. But like again, if you just had one sewers, that would be really cool. Like you would go and fight there and actually like control areas and have to fight for that stuff if you want it. But that doesn't exist. The districts are like a whole nother ballpark. And I mean, again, just to say, like,
All right.
they're just not what they are. Like they need a lot of work. I'm telling you.
Okay. Let's do something. Let's help Zenimax with the districts. Instead of just talking about it here, I'm thinking we should write up a proposal about the Imperial City districts. Like, write our own patch notes, basically. Write our own set of patch notes, post them on the forums, and get some traction so that they could see a well-written post regarding the Imperial City. Let's, like, revamp the Imperial City through a patch notes, through suggestions, and compile it and organize it. Instead of just talking about it, let's actually... Because I think Imperial City has a lot of potential, and it's already there. So they don't have to develop new structures and buildings and whatnot. It's already there. But you would have to just, change the environment, put in things here and there, whatever, repeatable quests or things like that. And then what you guys mentioned, the cap or the flags, and just making it some sort of small-scale competitive PvP environment. Let's write something up. Let's make some sort of, like, futuristic Imperial City patch notes, put it together, and post it on the forums, so that we could get some traction going. I know some of you guys don't have as much, what's the word? Fuel or will left in you, right? But I mean, you don't have to participate in this or if you don't want to. But I'm thinking if we get something going and we get a document going with changes that we want to see to improve the Imperial City, to make it the true PvP DLC that we want, we could get some good ideas down, and I'm sure ZeniMax will look at it and get on top of that, because those are things that they could change rather quickly, because they already have the system in place. Imperial City's already there. They don't have to add that.
Yeah.
They just have to change the environment around it and some of the mechanics involved with it. So I'm thinking
The hard work's already been done.
Yeah.
It's already there. Your battlegrounds are literally already there.
And we can work with the community, take their ideas as well, and implement them and whatnot into the document, and try to create a forum post with Imperial City revamped. Instead of just talking, let's do some action. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, but that's something I kind of want to put together, because it's something that they could do now to at least satisfy the taste of people who want competitive instance PvP without actually it being instanced, but still being competitive. All right, so that covers Imperial City. Are there any changes in particular that are coming? Oh yeah, poisons. So some of you got to work with the poisons. Lefty, you didn't really get too much into them. How do you guys feel about poisons? It's a really big change coming in. It's going to affect PvP. Does anyone want to start?
They didn't change them yet, right? They're pretty OP right now. I mean, I know they're getting toned back, but they're really, really strong in some respects. Some of them.
They were bugged on PTS, I believe.
In what
But
way?
how much?
Like in a bad way, right?
like
not full potential.
No, they
like
were
in a way that
past
it was
potential.
like
They
in a
were-
way that it was difficult to even really test them, because I think that the more components that you have per poison, they're supposed to like be diluted more. Like so they're supposed so if it has like 4, it's supposed to be weaker than one that has 1. But I don't think that they were diluting properly or something like that. I didn't test them too much, just too busy looking at other skills, but I know people that were testing them.
How do you guys feel about the buffs to weapon enchants? I don't think it was enough to make them competitive with poisons. Fenglish, I see you.
Nern is
Was that
pretty
supposed to be the idea? Make the buffs to weapon enchants good enough such that you don't have to run poisons and you can
Yes.
compete with people that are running. Okay, yeah, then I agree with you entirely.
The only enchant, in my opinion, that is even semi-close to being competitive with poison enchants is the weapon and spell damage enchant.
Yes.
Damage.
Gives you
Yeah.
350. But even that...
It's 417 if it's gold on a gold weapon.
Is it
Yeah.
417?
If you
Not
have
including
infused.
if it's
Sorry.
infused.
If you have infused.
Okay.
It's
If you pair it with
417.
Torx Pact.
Okay.
So what about Nern? Is that stacking like with dual wield? If you have 2 dual wield Nern swords, you get 22% increased damage overall.
No, it's
It's-
just damage
it's-
on weapon. It's
It's
not
damage
that
on the
good.
weapon.
Oh, it's just like for your light and heavy attack.
No, like
No,
your
it's
weapon
just the
stats.
weapon
You know how...
damage. So like in a dual
Yeah.
wield, it'd be like 100 something a sword. It's not worth it. Sharpen's better.
Oh, I thought Nern was giving like overall damage.
No.
No, it's not weapon damage, it's weapons damage.
I
It's-
see. I see.
It's like a, semantics thing.
So it's a little too early to judge poisons, considering they're supposed to dilute. But like, even some of the single, attributes that poisons have, like for example, 30% increase to stamina abilities, 30% increase to magic abilities. I think that outdoes pretty much 90% of weapon enchants. They're not. Why would anyone use weapon enchants if they could afford poisons, you have to use poisons. But they have to really make it to where you don't have to use poisons to be competitive, or to be on par.
Yeah, you could just put one on one weapon too, and still throw your weapon enchant on the other. So I
Yeah.
mean, why wouldn't you just do that? Why wouldn't you just harass them with this poison that's just ripping resources and it's time to go in for the kill? Like I would just do that, put a weapon enchant on like my 2-hander and just crit rush, dizzying blow, Dawnbreaker execute. Like okay, I just made a build that 90% of the people run once they see it. Like it's not much different than what's going on right now, right? So
Yeah, I'd just be interested to see the cooldowns. For instance, can you reapply a poison to somebody who's purified it? Is it purifiable? Is it purgeable? Like what
You
what
can't
is the
see it.
cooldown? Is it once per fight?
The
Is it
visual
once per
effects are also not
engagement?
that
Or-
helping.
yeah, I was gonna say you can't see it well. Like it's just it needs to be more clear. Like I have been poisoned because there's poisons that are like draining your resource. You have to know like hey,
Your resource pools should change color when they're being
yeah,
drained, or
like
whatever.
I need
there
to
needs to be
know
more visual cues.
I'm getting punished, like on my resources if I do something that's kind of screwed up.
One problem I have is, okay, disease is a weapon enchant that has a chance to proc healing reduction. But there is a poison that always gives you a healing reduction with other effects as well. So, like that right there, you can see the discrepancy. There's an imbalance between them. Why would anyone choose disease when they could make a poison that procs more often, 1, and 2, potentially heal debuffs them even more? I'm not sure if they have major healing debuff or minor, but
Plus it has other effects.
it has other effects.
Yeah. I think
Somebody
that goes
just-
to it wasn't thought out very well category cipher,
We
possibly.
talked about this at PAX. I didn't think they would get the weapon enchants and poisons balance on the first try, but it's pretty steep between them. Even though they're supposed to be diluted, and by next PTS patch we'll find out more about them, but it's still really steep. I don't see it being balanced. I don't see people going for weapon enchants over poisons at all.
I think
I
it's
see
just gonna
poisons
be like
being
I
really
said.
expensive though.
Yeah, they are pricey.
They are pricey, so that the risk gets stronger.
Yeah, like big groups, I don't think you're gonna use them as much as the smaller one.
Are
I
those,
don't know.
are those
type
mats
groups.
behind a paywall? Like, do you have to get the mats from?
I think they're
the
perfect
new
row.
area?
Or, I don't know what they are, but I don't know if everybody knows. Every time you apply a poison to somebody, it uses a poison too.
Yeah.
It's not just like okay. because I didn't know that for a while.
And they can like
So like
pop
you need
really
like
quick.
hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like once
they're
they're on,
expensive.
they're on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was going through a fight and I was just ripping like I dueled Scribes and I went through like 80 poisons and I was like, okay, I need a new stack. Like it was a joke because sometimes
Yeah.
it just keeps procking over and over and over. So
I think the
that's
proc rate on poisons is too high right now. That's one thing.
yeah.
It's like when your poison procs, like, oh, my poison proc, let me go into
I didn't
the
think
kill.
it'd be a proc. I figured it'd be like, hey, this poison will go off every 30 seconds and it'll
Oh,
take
yeah.
effect for 5 to 10 or something like.
You apply it to
Like a
your
potion.
weapon and your next attack applies
Yeah.
the poison. So you choose between either using a potion or a poison.
It's not even so much that you'd have to choose, but like I don't know.
Or maybe
I
it's separate.
didn't know how they'd implement it. So like right when we heard about how it was gonna work, I was like, So you're not actually choosing between your potion. I always figured you'd be sharing them with your potions because potions had negative effects. So I figured there'd be some kind of crossover between what you could do with potions and poisons, but there really isn't. It doesn't work exactly how it works with like the Elder Scrolls games. But I don't know, like I still think it's gonna be you can just run a poison on like say I'm a bow two-hander and you're gonna see a lot of bow two-handers. Why not just run a poison on your bow and just work people down, apply debuff, switch to two-hander, and go in with weapon damage? Why would you not just always do that?
Yeah. I-
Go ahead, Jules.
Sorry. I think a huge thing that they missed too with the poisons is I think it'd be really cool if they did something like antidotes where, say, somebody's dueling somebody else and they see that 30% increased stam poison was applied to them. Like if there'd be some sort of counteractive antidote that you would have to pop that would get that off you. And like, so those poisons weren't purgeable, but you'd have to have like X amount of like different antidotes to kind of
Maybe-
counteract the different poisons that were out there.
You slot an
That were-
antidote on your weapon, and whenever you heal yourself, it has a chance to apply the antidote. Or something
Yeah,
like
I don't
that.
know if that'd be too complex.
Yeah,
But
I mean, maybe. One thing I was gonna say is like the proc rate for poisons. There's a poison that can root your opponent for 6 seconds, which is a really long root. Forget the other, It also drains your resources and stuff. But let's just assume it's just a root poison. So I tested this with someone, and they were constantly light attacking me. Just doing their basic animation abilities, and I was rooted infinitely. Like they could constantly reapply the poison within the 6 second duration, to where you are rooted infinitely, unless you like get out of range of them. So the poison proc rate is way too high considering the effects that they are doing. You can permanently root someone by using the root poison, because you can proc it within the 6 seconds. There's no cooldown, at least not when it's long enough to make it balance with weapon enchants.
Yeah, I fought someone using the same setup. It was ridiculously annoying to fight.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into Q&A. So, people in the chat, if you guys have any questions for us to answer, we'll be answering your questions for the next, say, 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll wrap it up. So if anyone has any questions, just tag the person you want to answer your question, and we will discuss it. Don't be shy, people. Nernhond versus Sharpened. I'm pretty sure Sharpened's gonna outclass Nernhond unless you're talking maybe PvE, but I'm pretty sure Sharpened is gonna be the better.
Somebody said that Nernhone is giving 11% damage overall.
I wouldn't be surprised if the tooltip is just wrong, or
But that's what it says.
well, it says 11% damage to your weapon. That's what the patch notes said.
I had somebody test it, and that's not what they said. So
My Nern weapons, I could be wrong, but I remember it saying increases damage by 11%.
what's my opinion on Shuffle? Shuffle is really strong. I'm glad that Magicka builds have Misform now, which will cleanse them of snares. And I don't know, I think Shuffle is really strong. And just, I think snares in this game are ridiculous, which is what makes Shuffle so strong. Because everything seems to passively snare you, which is now going to be included in Purify. I mean, Lotus Fan passively snares you. It's just the snares in this game are kind of out of control, and shuffle makes things really great. It does cost a lot, but if you pop it after you get the Unchained after you're CC'd, it's very good.
Someone asked, Frozen asked, how do you feel about, populations being shared within Imperial City and Citadel, which kind of causes an issue. Like if your faction is all in the Imperial City, population is shared, and therefore you can be capped without having enough people out there actually fighting for you. And in my opinion, there should be only one instance or two at most of Imperial City, and it shouldn't be something you enter via Citadel, because I mean they did away with the whole restricted access stuff that they had. In my opinion, it should just be like Imperial City should be something that you can queue into with its own separate population cap that is separated from Citadel. So we only have one instance that's actually populated with people, or one for CP and one for non-CP, that's populated with people, instead of having 3 or 4 instances of Citadel that are usually all empty. So I think they
Hero
should
of
separate the
None.
population cap.
Oh, sorry.
Go
Were you
ahead.
done? Yeah. Hero of None's asking how we feel about the poison DK. So in terms of functionality, it's it's fine. I don't really care. It's not really a big change, but in terms of dude, I honestly hate the way it looks. Like Fire Breath was so cool, dude. It was so manly. I just breathe fire in your face, and now if I want to play a Stam DK, like I just like puke on you. It's kind of gross. Like to be honest, it looks like trash. I really think that they should redo the animation. It does. Like,
Yeah, I feel like
put it
everybody feels
on.
that way.
I put it on and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna breathe poison fire on someone, and it's just like, bleh, and I'm like, oh, okay, well that looks like garbage. The unstable flame morph, which whatever that's called now, the poison slashes or whatever, that looks fine. But like the fire, what was the fire breath? That I don't know. It looks like trash. It doesn't have any sound either. So like I was wondering if my attacks were even connecting with people whenever I used noxious breath and whatever the other one was, because they didn't have sounds with them. Like I couldn't tell. Like I thought people were dodging it, but it was just because I couldn't hear it actually connecting. So they need to give it a sound, and I really think they should rework the animation for the fire breath. They could almost just keep it the same like fire, but just make it green or something. Okay, you're breathing green fire or something. I don't know. But as far as its actual functionality, I think it's fine. It doesn't really bother me.
People
Oompa
say that
wants
it's
to-
hard to see,
It is hard to see.
like when you're being attacked by it. And
Yeah,
also
well, that's why I
the
was
whole
saying they need to
Dunmer
change the
passives too.
animation.
A lot of people became Dunmers for the DK passives for fire damage, and
Yeah, it kind of.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point,
Yeah.
actually.
I mean, Dunmers are going to be hitting harder with Fiery Breath and Unstable Flame because now Mighty gives them that boost. But I mean, the reason Lefty doesn't play the CP campaign, so it doesn't really affect him that way. It's just it just looks different.
Oompa wants to know what me and Fang think of the Hurricane morph, and I'll say like I like it. The ability actually does some damage now. It's a good dot, but they removed the movement speed bonus off of it. So unless you run two-handed bow, it's basically useless to a Sork. So that's how I feel about it. What about you, Fang?
They're gonna make changes to it. They're not done with it. Probably like minor expedition, which could kind of be cool. But again, you still have to run a bow, which kind of takes away what I always feel was Stamsork's biggest strength was the fact that the class had mobility to it in a good way. Like it was tied in with a skill that's useful, which it doesn't really have anymore. I mean, having minor expedition, then you can run a bow and get major too is kind of cool, but you still need to run a bow if you want utility. The good news is bow is very effective going into this patch. It's the poison arrow is just insanely strong, and the healing shot's pretty damn good. The knockback thing, it synergizes well with a lot of melee skills. So I don't know. I mean, will I run it? Maybe. It depends what they change. They are going to make some changes. I'm sure. I think it'll be in this next patch coming up for Hurricane. But right now, it's underwhelming. It costs stamina, man, and like in duels, it's not a problem. In open world, it's a totally different story. Like if you have a Magicka dump like you had, then you want to use your Magicka dump on that. The only other skill you have to Magicka dump with is streak, and it's not like you can spam streak. You have to wait for the cooldown. Or you use 2 streaks and you're out of mana. So I don't know. It's underwhelming, and like that's all they gave Stamsorks.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really
it-
disappointing.
it's crap. Like they give other classes like some solid stuff and some like really defining things. I mean, Nightblade's a beast of its own, so I'm not even gonna discuss it because there's too much to even. It's not even worth discussing. That class is kind of broken, and I feel it's the only class that deserves to like actually have nerfs. And I'm looking at skills basically because the way you can functionally build that class is messed up because of all the passive effects you get from it. It's unbelievable the list you can go through on
So
that.
good. And
Yeah,
Nightblade passives are absolutely head and
like
shoulders above every other
you look
class.
at that and then you go look at the Sork where literally half of your stuff is just the worst passives you could dream up. I mean, there's a whole passive skill line dedicated to getting like stupid buffs from summons. I can't even use a goddamn summon on my class. So I mean, there's one skill line like right out the window. I mean, Nightblade, when you'll go through it, doesn't matter if you're Stam or Magica, like every pass is going to be good for you. But aside from that, like DK and Templar have some good stuff. DK's better. They have some good passives and stuff. They got good poison effects, and they were already in pretty good shape. Again, Stam Sork's still the only class without something that's scaling ult wise. They have Dawnbreaker, which is great.
Templar
So
doesn't either. For Stam.
didn't they change the swing thing? Is that still on his
No,
Magica?
they should though. I think that all
Yeah,
classes should have a physical damage ult. I think
they should. Yeah,
Templar and Sork are just so far behind
yeah.
DK and
Templar's
Stam
the other one
and
that's
Nightblade right
missing.
now. It's just
The thing I
huge
like
disparity.
about
Dawnbreaker is really good though. I got a lot better.
it is, yeah, and
True.
like even if you had Stam options, you still may run Dawnbreaker. But like, the fact is, like they're not even taking those steps to just be like, here's something to play with. Like we're trying to like make a Stam option because you can. I mean, you can go and change like Overload right away. Like that is something that could just straight up be changed to some kind of Stam skill, but that didn't happen.
The other morph of it, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
there's two
like-
morphs. Like
Yeah.
there's one that returns Magicka. They can keep that, and then there's one that increases the heavy attack AOE damage or AOE range.
Yeah, because
And they can
everybody's
change
running
that.
around going like full Raiden mode, just lighting it up with the lightning hands, right? Like they
Yeah.
could take that out and give Stamsork something, give us a punch or something if you want to make it melee, or give it a range. I don't care. You can make it the same skill for now.
I'd love to see it.
They need major mending too, Stam Sorks.
That's the thing that I was about to say. Like the separator between Stamsork and why I place it last right now, especially in one-on-ones, is that major mending is like it's just huge, and I can't access it. So when
Yeah.
I fight like Stamplars, when it comes to resource management, which again we talked about a lot, vigor and rally crazy. Then you factor in mending on top of it. So these Stam DKs, these Stamplars, they're healing like crazy. And then you have Stam Nightblades doing burst. So what do I have as a Stam Sork? I got the goddamn Hurricane, and it just doesn't add up, man. The numbers aren't there.
Yeah.
So that's where it falls right now. It's unfortunate. But with all that said, you can still do stuff. And going into this patch, you're going to be much happier than last patch. Like, you have some stuff to do, and you can still, like, blow people away using good two-hander, animation cancel. You can do all that stuff. But do you have a great toolkit? No, you don't. And it worries me that ZeniMax can't even see that. Like, one of the things that they changed, I wanted to get to with the passives, is that they gave any kind of those anything from the lightning skill line, whatever it's called, 2% weapon damage we would get for every skill on our bar, and then they changed Fighters Guild where you get 3% from everything on your bar. Like, literally, the Fighters Guild change they made outclasses what Stam Sorks even had. You're actually doing yourself a disservice to put something on your bar that only does Magicka stuff. There's not even Stam Morphs for those skills. They're pure utility if you use them. So you have all these Stam Morphs that give me a worse passive, or I could go to the Fighters Guild, put on actual Stam skills that are actually good and get better passives. Like, what are they thinking? I mean, it's kind of insulting. Like, they make changes, I swear to God, they're like, Stam Sork, they don't even look at it. Like, no one's even considering it. So,
Stam Sork is definitely the Magicka DK of Stam right now.
yeah, it's so neglected. Like, when they do
Yeah,
anything,
very neglected.
That
they
analogy,
just
though.
don't consider it.
Housing is coming supposedly sooner or later.
Yay!
Only Templars
What
are
about the
allowed to buy
barbershop
houses,
though?
The barbershop.
That's what
I
we
honestly
need.
thought that was
That
coming
needs to
this
happen.
patch.
Cypher, I know you're gonna be doing a barbershop stream because you really like that stuff, so don't even lie. Like, you're the first guy in here. You're gonna buy the barbershop, you're gonna be in there playing with it.
What are you talking about?
What is
doing
his female characters?
I don't have female characters.
Hold on, what's wrong with having female characters?
No,
It's
I've
a
never
long
seen anything
story.
wrong with it.
That's what I thought.
Someone wrote a blog post about me sexually harassing players because I played with a female character, even though I don't have a female character.
What?
I don't know how I found it, but I found it.
Dude, I thought that it was so weird that that thread about you being bad at Magic at DK or something on the forums just like never got taken down for naming and shaming.
Yeah.
Ever. I was just like,
I'm immune to that.
it's his name is in the title of the like what is I don't understand. Like people get threads busted up for way lesser. It's crazy.
I'm immune.
It's a really interesting question about what we think will be the best setup, what class build,
Stamina
or
Upgrade's
build
gonna be a
type,
lot
magic
stronger
or
next
stamina.
patch.
Yeah, I feel like
Stamina Nightblade.
Yeah. The physical ultimate that they got is crazy good, and they can reduce dodge roll now with well fitted, and a few other sets that are coming in for stamina builds. I think Stamina Nightblade is gonna take
It's
lead.
a little overpowered,
Yeah.
but we're all used to that from the last year.
Yeah.
So
They've got a lot in the kit. And a lot of burst. The thing
And they
is,
got-
like, it's something like to look at. Like, Stem, it looks better this patch, and yeah, that's good. But, like, I feel like that burst that they went back, remember when they put, like, they halve damage, it said 50% less damage in Cyrodiil. Like, I feel like they're going to come back and revisit something like that. I feel like Stamina's doing a little too much. And a lot of the people you see in the PTS are, like, your better players. So when people get out there with these builds, they're going to be busting ass out there. And the Nightblades, they can insta-kill people. I had a tank build. I went to make a build video, and I got instantly killed by a Nightblade. I'm in a tank build.
I've seen
I mean,
it. That was funny.
Let's show that on the screen real quick.
Like, it's reactive, so, like, coming out of stealth, I take less damage, and, like, insta-dead.
that in-cap strike, I'm sorry, but the cost needs to be increased, or the
50
damage
so many
needs to be
effects.
decreased. You can't just give them like up to
Guys.
45% heal debuff plus a CC plus it's a 50 ultimate cost, which is literally just popping a pot and killing one person for a Nightblade. Like
Yeah, they're cycling their ult in fights. It's crazy. Like, it
using
gets
it like a
weaved in.
skill.
I know. It's
It's
brutal.
disgusting, and it hits for like 15k. It's
And
way,
its animation
way
is
overperforming.
beautiful.
Single target Dragon Leap. I don't know why that happened.
Let me we're showing the video that Bangrish is talking about on the screen.
Yeah, if they moved it to 100, it'd be fine.
I'm gonna try to do this build.
I'm just gonna fast forward to the
I'm gonna make the build video now.
I don't hate on Nightblades. I just they're imbalanced. It's a fact.
It's like
Okay.
Nightblades, man.
You're in heavy armor in this.
So-
right?
Yeah, React. Welcome, guys. This is the Vanguard build, as I've coined it. Okay, we're gonna start over. That was a bad start to the video. There's Zergbad coming in. We're gonna go actually. We're just gonna go make it at nickel instead. Right.
Heavy needs to feel like steel, man.
Look at his face. Like, oh, it's Zerbad.
It's like a drive-by.
Nice.
That's like not a bad build. Is all I'm saying. So like, what's gonna happen to the general population? You're gonna see boatloads of complaints, and I'm telling you, and
75%
Bo is
damage
so
reduction.
good now. Like Bo is like really strong. So if you hit from stealth, put a poison arrow in, and then just press any other button on your keyboard if you're a knife blade, and you got a kill, man. You got it in the bag. Like,
That's and that kill is before in-cap strike goes live.
Yeah.
So, right?
they struggle a little bit, just hit them with the ult, and it'll be up by the time you get to the next guy. So I mean, honestly though, I really wonder like how do they come and they're just gonna have to come around and fix it again. Like here's the thing, they didn't fix things properly when they just said we're gonna put a 50% slice on damage in Cyrodiil. That wasn't the issue. The issue was people insta-killing people from stealth,
Yeah.
shooting snipes out of stealth and then opening and getting like a double bonus open because the snipes lagged, and they're just getting this huge burst, just insta-killing people. So we'll have damage, great, but like it didn't fix what the issue was. Like,
Should have done it by skill.
right. And stealth in and of itself is just really brutal. Like you're hitting people from stealth, you're CCing them, you're doing bonus damage. So I mean, that's a separate strong issue that needs to be tackled.
I would
So
have rather
it would-
they added everyone. They gave everyone like 10k extra health instead of touching the damage.
right,
Because they need to
I
make
agree.
the PvP needs to be fast paced and strategic to an extent. Now it's like if you don't put everything into damage, you're punishing yourself. Like if you don't just stack damage, you're punishing yourself, and you will find fights not ending or just not going in your way because you didn't put everything into damage.
I agree. Yeah, it really funnels what you can do with builds. That stacked with the CP system, like you really have combat funneled into a certain way, and that's why you see such redundant build styles. And I try to play away from it sometimes. Like that's what I was trying to do with that build I made there. It's something different. It's not your most competitive build, and it's even worse now because I don't know. It's tanky, man, but like people are putting out some damage. I'm afraid to fight some Nightblades with my standard like two-handed bow build with medium armor, because if I get caught, like when I'm not roll dodging like that build just relies on mobility and roll dodge, which is what you need in medium. But if you get caught and you're not roll dodging, you get stunned, and then they just weave some animations on you, you're done every time. Like I'm gonna be bitching about those Nightblades as much as I was before, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but that's what's gonna happen. Like that's just what they, kind of what they are. But yeah, I think they'll be the strongest, and I don't see it getting fixed.
Heavy armor, Malabeth proc, major mending from Igneous Shield, Papa Rally, and Vigor. And then 2 surprise attacks. I'm still done. Like, what is that, dude? Do you know how much healing that is? And
Yeah,
it's
it's
still not
insane.
enough. That's still not enough.
I
for
couldn't
a
kill
couple
that in
surprise attacks.
duels. That's what was struggling for me the most, because I was doing like minus healing with that build right there, and like it's not good when you have exactly what you just described. I can't kill that on Stamplars and DKs. It's really brutal. I can actually kill some Nightblades, but I mean, better Nightblades will probably toast me either way. They're just really good with their animations. They know what they're doing.
Nightblades, I mean, every time I play Nightblade, it's literally a game of which awesome skill do I want to put on my bar, because all of their skills are great. It's like you almost get frustrated because they have so many good skills and like not enough slots. And the passives are the same. It's like they have a full Willow's Path, 15% across the board regen to every resource just for being a Nightblade without even having a slot anything.
Yeah,
no
you
other
wanna
class
decide,
has
like-
anything even comparable to that.
I felt the same way. Like I was like, how greedy can I get with this build to take advantage of all these cool passives I have on this bar? Maybe I'll only take advantage of half them here and most of them on the other one. Like it's really wild what they have at their disposal.
Yeah. Do I want to like AoE CC, hard CC everybody? Do I want to jump around the map? Do I want to completely disappear? Do I want to, snare or, empower my surprise attack with my gap closer? It's just
They have access to so
outrageous.
much major and minor buffs too compared to other ones. It's unreal. More than double what I have on my character. Literally, they have access to more than double. Like
Give
there's
some
something
that-
wrong with that.
Give some of that shit to the Magic DKs. Just spread some love over here.
And I'll take some of those.
All right, guys. I just want to give a big shout out to Tuner. Thank you so much for the $100 donation, man. I really appreciate it. Let me read your note if you left one for us. I currently have alerts off just to avoid interruptions. Keep up the awesome job, guys. Thank you so much, Tuner. I really appreciate it. And I think that's about wraps it up. We're about an hour and a half in, 1 hour and 20 minutes in. So it's a pretty good duration. I think that's what we should aim for any future podcast. Just keep it short and to the point. We covered most of the topics. I believe there's going to be a PTS update in the next couple of days. Hopefully they fix the poison dilution so we can get a better look at how poisons are. And the Dark Brotherhood should be launching on PC May 31st, and on console June 14th. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate you guys' support. Will we do another one in 2 weeks, or we're holding off? We're just not sure right now.
What about after launch? Is that 2 weeks from now? Or?
I think
There
after
might be
launch
some
is probably-
changes before it hits live. Too,
Yeah,
you know?
I'm sure they'll tweak some stuff, and then we can test it at
Yeah.
launch. We'll be able to test more
I think
things.
we should
at
do
launch.
one after it goes live.
Okay.
See how
Yeah.
it holds up.
So yeah, so we'll do one early June. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in. We're glad to be back. Really big turnout today. We'll see you guys after June with the Dark Brotherhood launch. Again, you can check us out on Twitch. If you type in !casters in the chat, you'll get King Richard, Fangrush, and Lefty's streams. And again, Jules, thank you so much for stopping by. We definitely do appreciate your input on the topics. So
Thanks, guys.
thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys soon. Again, if you missed any of this, it's going to be uploaded to youtube.com/Sypherpk. You can check the YouTube link below. I'll try to upload this tomorrow before my stream starts, so you can go back and watch anything you missed. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you for showing up.
Peace.